Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Rock and Recovery. I want to let you guys know that September is Recovery Month. We do recover, and it's also Suicide Prevention Month. So if you know somebody out there that's having a bad time, just give them a call, reach out, talk to them, see if they're okay. And our guest today is Steve Frazier. He's ready to talk about addiction to caffeine. Hello, Steve.
Hi, Jay.
How's it going?
It is it is another beautiful day to be alive.
So let me get this right. We're going to be talking about caffeine addiction, which is, I remember going, in the mornings, when I was a kid, waking up and listening to the commercial, what the best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup, waking up to that smell of fresh brewed coffee,
Yep.
that's what we woke up to.
Right. And you just gave a whole bunch of people a really solid dopamine hit right there because you don't actually have to see the commercial. All you have to do is talk about it. I was telling my daughter about this, who drinks caffeine regularly. And I said, I'm going to play this. And I told her about it. And she said, no, Dad, you don't have to watch it. All you have to do is talk about it because I just got a dopamine hit when you were talking about it.
Wow.
And so it's that whole programming thing, the subconscious. Part of my past is natural health and self-sabotage. And that's what led me to write my book. And it's a passion to spread the knowledge. We're going to talk about some of that today, about what really is happening when caffeine hits our body, and I think, we'll touch on that first. I think that the biggest impact that caffeine has on us is it affects our sleep.
Right.
And it sounds crazy because you realize that there's 85% of adults in the United States drink caffeine every day.
It's so normal, though.
2 to 300 million people, yes.
Wow.
And it's not only legal, it's a psychoactive drug. It's not only legal, but it's socially accepted and socially promoted. And so I'm like the salmon swimming upstream here, because as I talk about this, it's amazing the pushback I get from people when I just tell them the name of my book, okay, and that it's called Release the Coffee Cuffs, Winning the Battle with Caffeine. And many people, the first thing they'll say is, well, you can't convince me to quit my coffee. I will never give it up. And my response is this. First, I have no desire to try to get you to quit anything. Because
Absolutely.
I can't. Okay. I can't get you to quit anything because
Correct.
We all have free will and free won't. Now, so I say that to them and they look at me like, well, why'd you write the book then? Because there's a lot of people that are suffering a number of health issues and it's due to caffeine and they don't know it and nobody will tell them.
The funny thing is, it is a mood altering substance. I mean, it is, it does alter your mood. It gives you those highs and lows. We have crashes without it, And so, I can see the effects of coffee addiction, but we don't really think it's just coffee addiction. I don't need a cup of coffee, I'll skip it. But what happens? We don't feel right. If it's like I was addicted to drugs myself. So it's just another drug. It really is just another drug. Caffeine is.
Yes. And, what happens when you drink caffeine? First thing, and I'll mention this because this is one of the most important things. Whether you quit or not is okay.
Right.
When you get up in the morning, and I do this, okay, I happen to live, my living room window happens to face the east. So when I get up in the morning, I go and look at the sun or the sunrise. And what that does, it kicks in my cortisol, which is a natural energy thing. This is how your body prepares for the day. And by looking at the sun, basically, it just helps the cortisol increase in your body.
Okay.
Now, throughout the day, your cortisol goes down and your melatonin and adenosine, and I'll get to adenosine later, goes up, which then helps you naturally to go to sleep at night. Now, one thing that I do is I drink 20 to 24 ounces of lemon water in the morning. And what does that do? Well, it hydrates me, because overnight we're dehydrated. We naturally dehydrated. I mean, we haven't had anything to drink now in maybe 8 to 12 hours, right?
Yes.
And that's why you always lose weight overnight, because you're naturally losing that. So I rehydrate. Now, look at the average person, average coffee drinker in not just the United States, probably the world. The first thing they do when they wake up is they go to the coffee machine.
Yeah, they stumble out of bed, go hit the button,
Exactly.
or just pour the cup. Absolutely. If it's on a timer,
And why? Well, first of all, they are starting to detox. Okay. Now, they may not quite have the headache yet, but they definitely have brain fog, and they definitely have fatigue. And so they now drink their coffee first thing on an empty stomach.
Right.
Okay. Coffee is a diuretic. What does it do? It makes you go to the bathroom.
Makes you go to the bathroom.
Right. Well, when you go and pee, you're not just getting rid of water. You're getting rid of calcium and magnesium. And if you aren't supplementing those back into your body, you are deficient. Okay. Now, go ahead.
So you're just talking about the headache or the coffee and what it does, but doesn't caffeine also help? I mean, Excedrin's a big pharmaceutical, and it's mainly caffeine.
Yes.
So doesn't that help your headache, or what's the deal with that? I mean, is it just because it works? Is it,
That's a great question. And now the caffeine can help certain kind of headaches.
Okay.
But when we'll go to the adenosine, because that's where the headaches come in. Okay. When you put the caffeine into your body, it automatically blocks the adenosine receptors in your brain, because the caffeine molecules is extremely close to the adenosine molecule. And adenosine is what helps you go to sleep at night. It makes you tired. It helps you naturally go to sleep. Now, when you drink caffeine, those molecules then block the adenosine receptors.
Gotcha.
So if you continue to drink caffeine all day, you will be alert to some point, but your body will become fatigued. And then what it does is completely messes up your circadian rhythm. Because once you spike that cortisol and once you block the adenosine, your whole body is never going to be the same. Now, with that being said, you definitely go to sleep at night, whether you drink caffeine or not. But it's the quality of sleep that you get.
The tossing, turning, the restlessness.
Right. And they've done a lot of studies. And again, the book that I wrote has 300 references. Okay. So I didn't just make this up. I'm not making this up. I'm using, peer-reviewed studies. And what happens is that people will take a little longer to fall asleep if they are chronic caffeine users. And then they go into stage 1 and stage 2. Those are the early stages. And then stage 3 is the stage where you heal.
Right.
Now, caffeine delays that and also shortens it. Okay. And then also stage 4, which is REM sleep, is where you dream and your subconscious is going. Also delays that and shortens it. Now, what nobody really talks about is that stage 4 stages of sleep are cycled throughout the evening, throughout your night. Okay. So
it's like an up and down. It's like a roller coaster thing.
Right. So you may, the first hour and a half or 2 or 3 hours of sleep, you may have one whole cycle, and then you'll recycle. Okay. But each time you do that, you don't necessarily ever reach that deep healing sleep. Now, we'll go back to the headaches now. Okay. That has to do with adenosine.
Okay.
So when you stop drinking coffee or caffeine, if you go cold turkey, and I did this 2 years ago, I've done it a number of times. The one that really comes out is the one I did 2 years ago, because I had a headache so bad. I was non-functional. I had brain fog. I had fatigue. And I called up our daughter, who is a natural health practitioner. And I said, what can I do here? Is there a supplement I can take? And she kind of chuckled and she said, well, you need to drink as much water as you can help you flush your system and stay hydrated.
Right.
Number two, if you want to really humor yourself, you can take ibuprofen. Now realize she doesn't prescribe any drugs. She's pure natural supplements. She said, you're only doing that to humor yourself because it's not going to work. Because what's happening is that your adenosine receptors have now opened up because the caffeine molecules are not plugging them anymore. And you have this massive rush of blood to your head.
Okay.
And the only solution is
so that
caffeine.
pounding
Yes.
sensation
Yeah.
is because the blood
blood is flowing into your brain.
Gotcha.
Because it's been blocked. Those adenosine receptors are blocked. And this can be anywhere that can last from 12 hours after your last caffeine up to 7 to 9 days. You can possibly have it. So, I would recommend to anyone that's going to quit caffeine to taper. Don't go cold turkey. I mean, if you want to, that's fine. But there's some pain. There's some pain involved. And you also need to schedule it so that the day that you quit and 1 or 2 or 3 days after that, you don't want to have to be productive because you can't. Because the adenosine is flooding into your brain. And what it's doing is making you tired and giving you brain fog and fatigue because that's what its natural role is.
So doesn't sugar do the same thing? I mean, let's be real, because sugar's out there and it gives us that sugar high, you know. So doesn't the caffeine and the sugar isn't it kind of do the same thing?
Yes, it's just in a different form.
Okay.
The sugar is more in your blood and gives you that you're getting dopamine from a sugar high. You're getting all the results because what happens when you drink caffeine, you get a dopamine high. It releases adrenaline from your adrenal glands. It releases cortisol, which again is really messing with your circadian rhythm, and it stops and it plugs the adenosine receptors. So what happens? You talk about adrenaline. Adrenaline is a very misunderstood chemical in the body because its intended natural use is fight or flight.
Right.
Right.
When we get injured, we get adrenaline rush.
Yeah.
When we're in that fear, that first stage of fear, am I going to fight or flight? That adrenaline rush kicks in. It makes you not feel anything for the fight.
Correct.
So yeah, absolutely.
Now, one other thing that happens when your adrenaline,
you got that adrenaline drop, that dump.
You actually get glucose release into your muscles. Your body does this because your body thinks
it's preparing.
This is a life or death, right?
Right.
So it pumps all this glucose into all your muscles. And then what do? You sit at your office desk, you sit at your kitchen table, drinking a cup of coffee, reading the newspaper.
It calms
you down. Where does all that go? Well, it goes into what's called a cortisol tube, which can happen around your belly because it has to go somewhere. You've got all this extra sugar. And what also does then, it spikes your blood sugar. So what does your body do? Do you know what happens? It releases insulin.
Insulin, right.
Right. So the more often you do this, the more insulin resistant your body will become. Because it's like the boy crying wolf. Your body is getting this prompt. And there's a question about chocolate. Yes. Chocolate has caffeine. You should really check. I'm sorry. I just saw that come up.
I think she was asking, what about chocolate with low levels of caffeine?
It's probably okay. If you use it wisely, if you eat 3 candy bars a day and you're getting 50 to 100 milligrams of caffeine, it's just like drinking a cup of coffee. So if somebody's diabetic, what would you say to a diabetic that's a type 1 diabetic, insulin dependent? I know that's type 2, I think. But what would you say to that? What would you say somebody with that's type 1 diabetic? I would say that you need to figure out personally what it's doing to you because we're all different. A cup of coffee to me is going to affect me differently than you. My youngest son is type 1. He's 38. He was diagnosed when he was 15. So I lived with this. I'm familiar with this. Back in that day, we had to give him shots every time he ate carbs. Now he's got the pump and he just pumps it in when he, and he's in great shape, takes good care of himself. What happens to him is that if he drinks caffeine, it's going to spike his blood sugar, and he doesn't have the insulin response natural from his pancreas, right? Because it's dead.
Right.
So if they test now, he wears a monitor, and a lot of people are wearing monitors now. But what happens is that they're going to have to put some insulin into their body, or they're going to have really high blood sugar, because they have no natural way to combat that blood sugar.
Right. That's what insulin does. Yeah.
Right. And so, we don't have to worry about the pancreas because it's done. It doesn't work in type 1. But you still have to worry about the insulin spike, and then you crash. And then what happens
is crash.
And then you take insulin, and then your blood sugar goes down. Take too much insulin, you go into danger area. You can actually pass out and potentially die.
The same thing if your sugar's too high, you can go into that diabetic coma.
Yep,
yeah,
exactly. Yep.
Okay.
So caffeine is $1 trillion a year business in the world. $1 trillion. Now,
absolutely.
I just want you to understand something. This puts big tobacco, like, hold my beer, right?
Right.
There's no comparison. Big tobacco, I think in their heyday, was doing $500 or $600 billion a year, right?
Wow.
And they still do a lot.
Yeah.
Okay? But $1 trillion, so it's everywhere. I'm in a constant challenge on my weight, right? So I drink diet soda. Generally, I drink Zevia, which is a non-GMO diet soda. But I will occasionally go and drink mainstream soda. So I went to the store a couple months ago, and I bought some Diet Dr. Pepper and some Diet Sundrop. 2 favorites, right? I'm drinking them, having a good old time. I'm looking at the can of Dr. Pepper one day, Diet Dr. Pepper, and it's got caffeine in it. Right. Then I looked at the Sundrop. It's got caffeine. Diet Sundrop soda, 12-ounce can, has the highest milligrams of caffeine in any mainstream 12-ounce can of soda. Includes Mountain Dew, Pepsi, Coke. Okay.
Now you got me looking at what I'm drinking. I'm drinking okay, so it says it right there. It's a clear American. It's 0 sugar, 0 calories, 0 caffeine, 0 sodium. I'm like, I was just checking.
You're good. Yep, you're good. But if you don't read the labels, I was shocked, because here I am telling people what I think they should do, and here I am drinking caffeine. I don't even know it.
Right.
And so we'll go back briefly to the circadian rhythm and the sleep. Of all the things, and the first chapter in my book is anecdotal stories.
Okay.
And it's kind of interesting because originally I had it at the last chapter, and I was intending it to be more of a entertainment, kind of thing. As I read them and as I put it together, I realized that this is possibly the most important chapter in the book. So I switched to chapter 1.
Wow.
Because as you read it, you will find yourself in that chapter somewhere. Because the stories are all about quitting caffeine, okay, and their journey and how they did it. Wow. and the complications. And there's 20, I believe there's 20 stories in there, and 19 of them unequivocally said that after they quit caffeine, they slept better than they could ever remember, ever.
Wow.
I mean, we're talking through the night. And there was one girl that said, to be honest, it really doesn't seem to have any impact on me. Now, I can tell you from a science-backed
point of view, I'm sure.
It did, because it's messing with those stages of sleep, which you don't know. But if you wake up in the morning and you're groggy, you are having a withdrawal from caffeine.
Okay.
And, so when I wake up, one of the guys, his name's Vince, he has a tutorial. He's got a testimonial on YouTube. And if you just go to YouTube and go, I quit caffeine. It's 11 minutes long. It's one of the most powerful ones I've ever seen. And he talks about how caffeine almost destroyed his personal and professional life.
Wow.
He's an influencer, a health fitness influencer.
Yes.
He owns his own jet. Okay.
Hmm.
Beautiful wife and kids. And he got to the point where he couldn't function without having a shot of espresso.
See, so I drink coffee maybe twice a week, maybe,
Yep.
you know, and normally I'm drinking the no caffeine, zero everything,
Sure.
zero sugar, zero, whatever, just zero, basically glorified water.
Yes.
And, so how would it affect me like that? Because I don't need it, but I don't sleep through the night either. And I wake up still, I don't need a lot of sleep. I guess I run on less sleep than most,
Right.
So for myself, I wake up and I'm ready to go anyway,
Yes.
without the caffeine boost
Yep.
per se. But that's not saying I didn't. I used to be a Coca-Cola person and I would drink 2 or 3 of those a morning and that wasn't enough,
Yes.
So I know that was a lot of caffeine, but I never had a withdrawal from caffeine. I've never had the need for caffeine, per se.
Right.
It's not something that I need. It's more, conversation around the coffee pot.
Right. Exactly.
You
That's
know?
the social. That's the social aspect of not quitting caffeine. You can't give it up. But
Right.
again, we're all different, and so you have, that small amount of caffeine may or may not be affecting your circadian rhythm. Okay, I can't, and I will never be able to tell you one way or the other.
Right. Absolutely.
Because it's an individual. But if you're only drinking it a couple times a week, what happens is your body is getting rid of it. Okay. And so it's not messing with you too much.
Right.
The key is if you're going to drink caffeine in the morning, wait at least an hour or hour and a half
After you wake up.
because your cortisol then naturally spikes. And the best thing to do would be to drink some lemon water.
Right.
And then have your coffee. Okay. I'm not telling you not to, but what you've done
Right.
now is you've rehydrated, right?
Now your body's getting dependent on that substance, that caffeine, instead of the natural high,
Right.
instead of the caffeine,
Exactly.
Okay.
So we go
So
back
what-
to Vince.
Yeah.
Let me just finish that story.
Yep.
His comment was after 6 months after quitting caffeine, and it saved his marriage and his professional life. I mean, this guy's probably doing 1,000 to 1,500 milligrams of caffeine a day, possibly
Wow.
more, which is obviously scary health-wise. He said that when he wakes up now, 6 months post-caffeine use, when he wakes up, he feels like he's had a double or triple shot of espresso. That's how good he feels.
Wow.
Because his body has recycled, right? And it can take time. It can take 6 months. It can take even a year. I'm in some groups where people have quit for a year and they are still struggling. Their body hasn't reset yet.
Wow.
Our bodies are wonderfully and beautifully made by God. Okay.
Yes.
And we can heal ourselves of almost anything.
Absolutely.
Okay? But you have to help it sometime.
Funny story. Right before this, I was talking to my mom, and she was telling me about, like, back in 2000, and I don't know, whenever she worked for the post office, it was a long time ago, that they used to drink like a pot or 2 a day. She was like a postmaster type person, and she used to be on like teams that would go and audit other post office.
Sure.
And so she was staying in hotels a lot, whatever. And her team's like, Chris, you need to quit drinking coffee. You're too hyper. So she's like, okay. So she quit for 2 or 3 weeks, and they come back. Chris, you need. We told you quit drinking coffee. She's like, I've been off of it for like 2-3 weeks. So it was just her natural, bubbly, and energetic person that she just recently started. She's way old. Not really. I love my mom.
Be careful because she's probably about my age. Okay, so we got to be careful here when we start saying how old people are.
But it just goes to show the body necessarily doesn't need it. Oh, she just called me a turd. So
well, she's your She's your favorite third. How's that?
Yeah. But it's just funny because our body doesn't need it. It's just something that we're so used to. Just
Right.
and it's not even a coping mechanism like drugs and alcohol. That sort of addiction
Yep.
is more of a coping,
Yep.
mechanism.
Right.
And coffee's just I'll wake up today, drink some coffee. It smells good. Let's be real. It smells great brewing,
Yep.
and it's just
That's that dopamine.
it is.
And
It
the minute you smell it, you got a rush. Okay. Dopamine is your body's way of producing heroin and morphine and coke. Right. I mean, it is. When I say that, you realize that it's a very, very
Yes.
small, but it is.
Right.
Dopamine is a wonderful thing.
Right.
If we can use it appropriately, I guess, we don't control it often, but
right. And so what brought you to the awareness of you needed to stop this? What brought you to writing your book and your program and everything else? What brought you to that point in your caffeine addiction and awareness, basically? What brought you to that point?
That's a great question because I had a aha moment 11 years ago. I was a pasta manufacturer. I would travel around the Midwest. I live in northern Wisconsin. I was traveling around.
Pasta. Did you say pasta like noodles?
Yeah. Oh. Gluten-free, grain-free pasta. My wife created because she got sick and got a Lyme disease, autoimmune, and celiac and grain intolerant. Okay. And we were avid pasta eaters. So for 2 years, we didn't eat pasta. And then she said, I'm just going to make my own. Okay. And she made it with 4 ingredients: garbanzo bean flour, arrowroot starch, xanthan gum, and organic eggs. It's non-GMO project certified. And I was traveling to do a demo. I traveled to Minneapolis, the Twin Cities, Milwaukee, Madison, at the co-ops there, which are like health food stores. And I got 45 minutes from home and my heart started to pound so hard, I thought I was having a heart attack. And I turned around, I called my wife. I said, I'm coming home. When I get home, I need you to take me to the ER. So I get home, we pop in the car. ER is only 5 minutes away. They hook me up and my heart is going a mile a minute. Now realize I don't know if I've eaten, but I've had coffee. I have been drinking coffee. And they hook me up to EKG. The doctor comes in and he said, watch your EKG. So every time I had a palpitation, and these are called premature ventricular contractions.
Okay.
And everybody has them. I just happen to be in the minority that can really feel them.
Right. So
when I would have one, the EKG would jump up. And he said, see, now you're okay. You're not having a heart attack. He said, but you happen to be very, very susceptible to feeling this. And I said, so what's causing this? And I'd had these before, but never this hard. And he said, well, stress. And then he paused and he said with a small smirk, and caffeine. And I'm thinking to myself, oh boy, I did not want to hear this. Right. But I also don't want to go through this again.
Right.
So I quit. And like every other addict in the world, I thought I had it under control. So I started again. Well, then I'm doing it every day. Now, apparently I cut off because I only had one episode. I've only had one of those episodes in the last 11 years. And then 2 years ago, I just realized that I needed to stop doing this. Because when my wife got sick, we went down the natural health rabbit hole. Okay. Because you realize she can't eat anything, gluten, no grains, no processed.
And gluten's in just about everything anymore.
It's amazing. I mean, you know what? Her biggest shock was we road trip. Like right now, I'm in Florida and we drove here.
I'm in Florida.
Are you? Yeah.
Yeah. Daytona Beach.
I'm in Anna Marie Island.
Okay. Just on the other side, just straight west.
Exactly. Yep. And we drive here because we take all of the food along. We take all of the food along for her to eat. Okay. I have 3 coolers and I've got big ice, whatever. We used to eat Twizzlers on the road trip. That was one of my favorite
cherry
snacks.
Twizzlers. Yeah, absolutely.
Loaded with caffeine and gluten.
Yeah.
And not
really
not caffeine, gluten.
Wow, I
did
not know that.
wheat is in everything, and gluten. And so you realize that it's not just the gluten, it's the glyphosate that's in the wheat. That's a whole nother subject, which I won't get into.
Wow.
But so what happened is that so she got sick, she created the pasta, and now we're just, and my daughter, Alex, who's the health practitioner, basically saved her life. Because after 2 years, she was undiagnosed by 17 different doctors who basically all told her to hit the road because they didn't know what she had. And so they told her it was her fault. It was all in her head. And I'm sure that you've heard stories like
I've
this.
heard stories.
We lived it. We lived it.
Right.
And this isn't a bash on doctors.
No.
There's a lot of doctors that, especially acute care, they're crucial to society.
Yes, absolutely.
But with autoimmunes, they struggle.
I know somebody that was having seizures or epileptic, seizures, and they couldn't prove it because she never had one in front of them.
Right? Exactly.
It's like you're telling me I'm lying, but they knew that she wasn't.
Right.
Her primary care is like, no, you're having seizures. Yeah. It's not the emergency room's fault that you don't have one there. It's just, it's crazy that there's sometimes people are so close-minded to what they can't see.
It's called cognitive dissonance.
Yeah, absolutely it is.
And this is, and I'm going to hit a tangent here because you brought it up, and I'm going to
that's fine.
Is that doctors, and many doctors drink caffeine. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Let's face it, they have long hours. They need some energy. They use caffeine. So when a patient comes in that has classic symptoms of caffeine abuse, chronic caffeine abuse, their cognitive dissonance says back here in their subconscious, that can't be caffeine because I drink caffeine and I don't have those symptoms.
Exactly. It can't be the same because, hey, look at me. Yep. I'm fine.
That's right.
Yep.
Now, if you can call it that, you can call it confirmation bias, whatever you want to call it.
Medical gaslighting.
Yes. Oh, there you go. Thank you. I'm going to use that if that's okay, because that's a great, great phrase. I'll give you credit.
No, credit to somebody in the chat room that, she's like medical gaslighting. I'm like, absolutely.
Yeah. And so what happens is that you don't ever really know because nobody wants to talk about it, because the people that are in control, they're never going to tell you. And so we went down this natural rabbit hole. And then several years ago, I became certified as a self-sabotage coach.
Okay.
And that's incredibly interesting because we all self-sabotage ourselves.
Absolutely.
And, there's 4 pillars in self-sabotage. It's spiritual, emotional, financial, and physical.
Man, we could go a whole show on just self-sabotage.
Absolutely.
Oh, man.
Well, we could do 10 hours. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I'll hit it in a nutshell. In the physical pillar, the self-sabotage tools are caffeine, nicotine, alcohol, drugs, prescription drugs, overeating, lack of sleep. These are all the ways we self-sabotage ourselves. And I looked at them all, and I talked with my wife. My wife is a PhD professor. She teaches online. And she said to me, in order for you to get anybody to listen to you, you got to be a subject matter expert.
Right.
So one, you can get a PhD. I have an MBA, but I went through her PhD process. I proofed all of her papers. I have no desire to be a PhD. She said the other option is to write a book. And so I did, and I researched it. And again, I have 300 references. And in that pillar, I realized that caffeine was the one area that I could possibly have the most influence by spreading the truth. Okay. Whatever you want to call it, the truth about caffeine, there's series, the truth about this, the truth about that.
Right.
What I chose to call it Release the Coffee Cuffs, because it's got a unique name.
Yeah. Coffee cup, coffee cuffs. Yeah.
Right. And so you look at the caffeine use, I referenced this before, 85% of adults, but an incredible amount of teens and younger kids drink caffeine, which is incredibly bad for growth and everything.
And if you're in a different country, let's say Italy, if you ain't drinking espressos when you're 3, then there's something wrong with you.
Right. I talked to a lady from Colombia, a podcast host. I was on her podcast. She grew up, she was born and raised in Colombia. She was given in her bottle as a baby half coffee and half milk.
Yeah, exactly. It was half and half, and it like, holy shit, you know.
Yeah, that's right. That's
my grandpa. My grandpa, he's full-blooded Italian, you know, and he used to let us drink coffee, but he's like, just a little bit, you know. He used to give us shit for drinking coffee all the time, you know. He didn't want us to drink coffee until we were, I don't know, high school or whatever. Then it didn't matter.
Then you decide. Yeah. Because here's my approach. We all have free will and free won't.
Right.
And I cannot make anybody do anything. I talked about this in the beginning of the show.
Absolutely.
However, I can provide information which will make people think. And I'll use a Brendaism. That's my wife, and she's got all these great quotes, okay? This one is one of my favorites. It's why I do what I do. You can take a horse to water, but you can't make it drink.
You know,
however, you can make it thirsty.
Absolutely. You could drown a horse and he's still not going to drink. Let's be real. Right. Unless that, and I'll use myself, unless I was ready to quit anything, you could have force fed it to me. You could have done anything, and I am just not going to do it until I'm ready. You know, hold me underwater and see what happens. I will friggin' drown.
My career started in the restaurant business. I was in there, and then for 23 years, Brenda and I owned and operated 6 different restaurants.
Okay.
Well, we had bars in there as well. So a lot of the people that worked for us were drinkers. They were smokers.
Absolutely.
And they would walk up to me one day and they would say, I'm gonna try to quit smoking tomorrow. I just wanted to let you know. And I would just chuckle at them. And I'll say, don't do it. Don't waste your time. All you're going to do is be miserable for a couple days or a week. I'm going to be miserable because you're going to be crabby, because you either quit or you don't quit. You don't try to quit. It's like an oxymoron. Okay. You know, I quit smoking 40 years ago. I still would like a cigarette. I still get a dopamine hit when I walk through exhaled smoke from a smoker.
And you still smell it. Yeah.
But I've not had a cigarette in 40 years because I knew it was killing me. I mean, I'm coughing up black stuff 40 years ago. I had a short lifespan.
Right.
But, you know, everybody can't do that. And I understand that. But, you know, there's one thing that I want to bring up, and that is really my mission. And that is, again, I can't make anybody do anything. However, if I can get the message out of what caffeine does to the fetus in a pregnant woman.
Yeah.
If I can get one woman, now I'll never know the answer here. Okay. Just so you know. So this is not just delayed gratification. It's never
going to happen.
I'll never know. But if one pregnant woman stops drinking caffeine while she's pregnant and then has a healthy, happy baby, I may have been the source of that. And because it's documented that caffeine, it causes low birth weight, it can lead to miscarriages, it can lead to stillbirths.
Wow.
Now, granted, everybody that drinks caffeine doesn't have a miscarriage or stillbirth.
Right.
You know, I talk in generality.
It's how the body reacts to it.
Yes.
Everybody's different.
Yeah. You know, I have two miscarriages and stillbirths in my immediate family. And you have, until you experience this, you have no idea the impact that this has on not just baby, but mom and dad, brothers and sisters, aunts and uncles, grandma and grandpas. I mean, the circle of influence there is enormous.
Yes.
You know, I mean, my niece who had a stillbirth baby, I mean, it was born early at 7 months, dead. And we had open casket funeral, you know, and here's this little fetus, little baby. And it's heartbreaking.
It is.
And it never goes away because you lost a child. And the miscarriages too. I would have 2 other grandchildren now if my daughter and daughter-in-law both had miscarriages.
Yeah.
Which a lot of people don't talk about.
But can you contribute that to just coffee or caffeine?
Oh, no,
or
absolutely.
Okay.
No. And again, don't.
Yeah, that's why I was asking.
Yes,
that's why I was clearing it up.
Good
you
point.
know.
Yes. What it does is it can lead to that. Okay. So as a precursor to that, you might say to yourself, now
like drinking, when they quit drinking when you're pregnant, just try to quit coffee. Why don't you just quit, see how it turns out? You know, it's not going to hurt you.
Right. Because ironically, that caffeine thing goes before conception.
Right.
Because if you're a young couple and you're trying to conceive, the man, if they're both drinking caffeine, the caffeine lowers his testosterone, because cortisol and testosterone don't get along.
Right.
Okay. So if you increase your cortisol, and if you don't have that healing sleep, that's when men produce testosterone.
Right.
Okay. So not only does your libido go down, but the sperm becomes fragmented. The motility and mobility of the sperm is lower. And for the woman, caffeine decreases the blood flow to the egg.
Right.
And so you have a less chance. Now, again, people that drink caffeine have babies all the time. So
absolutely.
But if you are
having certain people in certain instances, this happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, my mission is to get in front of wellness groups, health groups, pro-life, live action, and to let people know that this is a big deal. After the baby's born, breast milk carries a very small amount of caffeine. Okay. But you realize here's a fun fact to know and tell. The baby, the fetus, does not methylate caffeine like the mother. The baby holds most of the caffeine in its body. So you get 9 months of caffeine in your body. Now realize that caffeine is doing the same thing to the baby it's doing to you and me. Okay, it's closes the adenosine receptors.
Right.
So guess what happens when baby's born?
They're hyper.
Oh, they've got a headache. Worst thing in the world. And they'll scream for days maybe because their adenosine receptors opened up. Remember? As an adult, why do we get those headaches?
Right.
Well, the baby's getting the same thing. Now, nobody, you talk about it, you talk about what and I don't mean this to sound harsh, but crack babies, whatever you want to call them, okay? I mean, moms are hooked on drugs. They have a baby. The baby's
automatically hooked on drugs.
They have to detox the baby.
They absolutely do.
Nobody ever talks about detoxing the baby from caffeine. I mean, in the literature that I have in my book, there's actually cases where guys have gone in for surgery and they didn't give them caffeine and they had such a bad headache that they had to stop the surgeries and they put them on a caffeine drip so that they could have surgery.
I was just going to say, so don't the doctors give the preemies like a small shot of caffeine to stimulate lungs and stuff?
They do. And I can't speak to that because I'm not an expert in that.
Right.
One of my granddaughters was 5 weeks early and she was in NICU for 3 days and they gave her caffeine.
Okay.
And because it stimulates. Okay. And it does. Let's face it, it does. Yeah. And so I'm not.
It is a stimulant. It is a stimulant.
Yeah. I'm not going to tell you that that's wrong. Okay.
Right.
I can't tell you that it's the best because I don't know. I'm willing to admit when I don't know something, and I do. And that procedure is real because it happened in my family, right? And you obviously understand that because you've heard about it. And if that's the case, because what it will do is we'll also open up the lungs. And so probably it's a good thing. That's all I can say to that. Now, you look at all these things that are happening in the world to us every day. And like I said, the physical aspects are one thing. We can do almost anything physically. What happens after we quit caffeine? That's a good question, right? Because it's just not over.
What does withdrawal and a recovery from caffeine look like?
Yep. So first thing, you're going to be crabby for quite a while. And then your adrenal glands have to reset because you realize your circadian rhythm is a mess. And some people, your circadian rhythm is completely flip-flopped. You're extremely alert at night and extremely tired in the morning, which is just the opposite, right?
So you're the night owl.
Yes, right. And some people are naturally that way without caffeine, and a lot of people are that way because of caffeine. But then we look at that and we say, what happens when we quit caffeine? Well, first of all, we have those physical things that happen, the headaches, the brain fog, the fatigue. But then you look at the social aspects. And as I said, I've been confronted by friends that get quite testy and say, you're never going to take my coffee away from me. Again, my response is very simple and very polite. I have no intention of trying to quit you, to get you to quit. It's your call. It's your body, right? You decide what goes in and how it affects you. And I don't control that.
Right.
So that's a societal thing. Then you get to the office and you got the coffee, like you said, you brought that up before, the coffee pot, the meeting around the coffee pot.
Right.
So are you going to be the guy that's going to drink decaf? It's like the guy that goes to the bar and drinks NA beer. At some point, people are looking at him, and this goes back to the self-sabotage. If you're in a bar and you're the only person drinking NA beer, you are not part of the herd.
Right.
And the herd is going to push you away because
Absolutely.
you are a threat to the herd. You are, because that's the mentality. That's the herd mentality.
Absolutely correct.
And so, if you've ever seen the meme or heard about the meme of all the sheep running off the cliff, and right mid pack, one sheep is saying, why are we all following Barb? And another sheep says, well, because we're all doing it, and that's what we have to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so you have that social aspect of how are you going to deal with this, and then you have your emotional, personal aspect. And I sent you some documents this morning, some trackers.
Yes. Yeah.
And I hope you put them in the show notes if you can.
I will.
What they are is they're tools that we use when people want to quit caffeine, which are tools you can use to quit anything, right?
Okay.
The first key is, before you even quit anything, you've got to figure out how much you're using, right?
Right.
Whether it's cigarettes, whether it's drugs, whether it's caffeine,
right,
whether it's alcohol. And if you are honest, and if you're not, let's put it this way, if you're not honest with yourself, these trackers are useless, right?
Absolutely.
Because it's just you and the piece of paper, right?
Right.
That's it. There's nobody else involved here. So if you actually start to realize how much caffeine you're actually ingesting in a day, it's amazing. And
that goes with energy drinks. That's why energy drinks are so popular. They have a huge amount of caffeine, and sometimes they taste good and they give us that boost of energy. They're like No-Dos back in the day,
right.
From 7-Eleven, a little pill form of 15 billion milligrams of caffeine.
Yep.
It's
ironic.
It's crazy.
You brought up the energy drinks. There's also other things in energy drinks that have caffeine that aren't listed. The items, taurine, other things, guana.
They also have caffeine in them.
They have caffeine
naturally,
but it's not in the caffeine count labeled on the can.
Yeah.
And you get an energy drink, that's 2 to 400 milligrams of caffeine. That's like 2 to 4 cups of coffee sometime.
Yeah.
Now, if you're drinking that on top of coffee, on top of soda, you're up into the 600 to 1,000 milligrams a day.
I never realized how fast it could add up, because there's so many natural occurring substances that have coffee, or that have caffeine in them.
Exactly.
That I never really took that into account, that they're not going to count those as part of the caffeine count.
Yes, correct. And then you look at, we'll go back to the woman for a minute. We talked about men and their testosterone. Women, and this is a fun fact to know and tell. When women are in their menstrual cycle, the last 7 to 14 days of their cycle before they have their period, they methylate caffeine 70% slower.
Wow.
Okay, so if you're drinking caffeine at that point in your menstrual cycle, if you have a regular cup of coffee at noon, your normal half-life is 5 to 8 hours on caffeine. That's half-life. So you take 70% on top of that, and your half-life is 8 to 12 hours. At 10 o'clock at night, when you want to go to sleep,
you're not going to go to sleep.
The half-life of that caffeine you drink at noon is still
kicking in.
It's still high. And then it's the same with birth control pills. They do the same thing with the methylation. It's 70% less, slower. Now, everybody's unique in that. Like me, I'm a fast metabolizer. So if I drink caffeine, and I use caffeine occasionally when I drive long distances. Like, so it's I drive 10 or 12 hours a day to get to Florida. And I have used caffeine, and I pay for it every night because I sometimes it takes me 1 to 3 hours to go to sleep. I got here last Saturday. Today is Thursday. This is the first time in my life that I've never had caffeine on my drive to Florida. So I drove 10 hours on Friday. I drove 13 hours on Saturday. We got to the hotel on Saturday night, and we're in the elevator, 11 o'clock at night. And I looked at Brenda and I said, I feel so good. I have no crash. I have energy because I didn't have that caffeine, because I realize if I'm drinking caffeine during the day, at some point I'm going to have withdrawal.
Right.
And so and I will probably have caffeine sometime when I need it, because the short-term effects can be beneficial.
Absolutely.
Short-term. You get the adrenaline, weightlifters, guys that go to the gym, they take these pre-workout drinks. Now you realize that they're taking them. My daughter is a gym person. She's a lifter.
So, I can say something on that, because my pre-workout was like 2 big, huge heaping spoons of instant coffee, a couple of aspirin,
Right.
a couple of aspirin, and a couple of glucose tablets. But literally, it was 2 huge heaping spoons of instant coffee, 2 aspirin, and some glucosamine.
Yep.
That was my pre-workout.
Yep. And so what happens? I said, so why do you take this, Alex? She said, well, everybody wants their personal records, their PRs. I said, you do understand that it's not real. It's artificial. She said, well, they don't care. Nobody cares, because when you're sitting there and you hit a new personal record and the guy's next to you and you shout it out, nobody says, how did you get there?
Right.
Nobody says, did you take 400 milligrams of caffeine and all these other substances that are in your pre-workout? And, I talked about this guy, Vince. He had his own pre-workout drink that he sold.
Right.
Obviously, he's a very successful man.
Right.
He said, I'm jacked up. Now, realize that one of the reasons these guys, they want their testosterone to go up because, they want to be husky men, man's man, right? And I'm not disparaging that. However, after their workout, their cortisol is spiking and their testosterone goes to crap.
Right.
Okay. And then they don't get the rest at night. So again, their testosterone you're not healing. You're not producing more testosterone. So in essence, you're getting not what you wanted. You're getting the opposite of what you wanted.
Right.
So
you get it. It's that instant gratification thing.
Yes.
You get it instantly, but long term, you're not really doing anything for you.
If somebody really wants to know if they're addicted to caffeine, and that's a strong word, so I don't use that lightly.
Right.
I try to stay away from it because it scares so many people that they won't even talk to me, right? Because they don't want to talk about addiction, because addiction is scary.
Right.
But if you really want to know if you have a caffeine addiction, just stop cold turkey.
Yeah, that's very true.
You'll know in 24 hours.
Oh yeah, you will.
Probably
it's like I know people that have been addicted to caffeine that get shakes, just like an alcoholic that will get the shakes, and then coffee calms their nerves. Exactly. I know people like that. And, that's a withdrawal. That is a withdrawal.
And you know what? The ironic part of that, and what it's a rinse and repeat cycle.
You're right.
And because when you go down, you need that high, right? And 14 chapters in my book, we talk about rinse and repeat in every chapter, because it's a recurring thing.
Correct.
And so if you quit and you have the symptoms after 24 hours, then you go back and have caffeine because you get rid of the headache and the brain fog.
Right.
But then you can decide if this is how you want to live the rest of your life, because it's not a healthy life. Okay. There is not, I did not find one documented study that showed a health benefit of caffeine. So why is it in everything? And the answer is because it makes you addicted to it. And that's
because it's big business.
$1 trillion.
It's big business.
There's no other business larger than caffeine in the world. It's $1 trillion business. And what do they do?
You're telling me they beat pharma companies, they beat the pharmaceutical companies. Caffeine beats big pharma.
Yeah. Yep.
Wow, that's
And
crazy. I would have never have thought that.
when they take the caffeine out for decaf coffee, what do? They sell it to the soda companies and energy companies.
Mm,
They sell it because caffeine itself is bitter. It's a pest. It's a natural pesticide for the
it's
coffee
pesticide.
plants.
Yeah, it is.
It's because it's so bitter, the insects don't eat it. So people that say they love the taste of coffee, that's
Love the
dopamine.
sugar.
That's
They love the
dopamine, right?
sugar that's in the
Exactly. Yeah,
coffee.
you go to
Yeah,
Starbucks, you're not
right.
getting coffee or caffeine. You're getting a massive mix of toxic
Right.
chemicals. And so you have this huge decision to make. What am I going to do with my life? And is this a big deal? Well, again, if you're a woman and you get osteoporosis late in your life, if you're a man, you have blood pressure problems, these are all side effects. I have two friends that told me right to my face that they would never quit caffeine. And one of them went on blood pressure medication and he's miserable. It makes him feel terrible. And I looked at him and I said, you realize that I can give you some guidance here and you can lower your blood pressure naturally.
Absolutely. Quitting coffee will lower your blood pressure because it's a stimulant.
Yes.
Coffee's a stimulant. It's going to stimulate everything. So that means your heartbeat's going to go faster, which means your blood pressure is going to go up.
Yep.
Yeah.
And what was his response? I like my life just the way it is, and I'm not going to change. And so I'd rather take the pill and be able, because he drinks coffee in the morning, he'll drink a soda. Generally, I'll have a Red Bull mid-afternoon.
Oh yeah.
The guy's doing 500 to 800 milligrams a day, and can't figure out why these things are happening. And it's our society, and we've been programmed from birth that these things are the way it is to be successful as an adult. Our subconscious is
look every show on TV that you've ever seen, they are at a restaurant or they drink coffee.
Mhm.
News programs have their coffee cup in front of them.
Yep.
Everybody has a coffee, not a problem, but a coffee cup anymore.
Yep.
It's Stanley got big because they sell coffee cups.
I'm drinking Swiss water processed decaf, organic.
See, for me, I'm not going to, if I'm going to drink coffee, it's going to be full coffee.
Right.
Just because, it's pointless. It's going to be water,
I use it because I put a whole bunch of stuff in my coffee because I don't like the taste of coffee.
Okay. Right.
So I put protein powder in there.
Gotcha.
I put turmeric in there. I put cacao in there, which is a superfood.
What's funny is most people don't know that tea itself, brewed tea, has more caffeine than coffee.
Oh yeah, it's phenomenal.
So it's just a matter of what evil you're gonna do.
Right.
What are you willing to pay the cost for?
Yep.
And it just goes to say that all you can be addicted to anything,
right?
And you not necessarily feel the effects, but know that it's affecting you somehow because you're addicted to it.
Yep.
It could never affect you in life at all, your personal life at all, but it's still an addiction.
Yes.
And that's the thing. It's still an addiction that, is hard to get rid of sometimes.
Right.
And especially when you don't realize what the good side effects and the bad side effects are.
Right.
And so if it's just part of your everyday routine and you don't understand why you have to quit it, but then you try and you start failing, then that means there's doing something to your body that your body's rejecting right now because you did for years. And it's like, oh, let's take it away and see what happens. It doesn't like it.
Yep. So the moral of the story is I have a lot of information. I gave you a lot today.
Yes. I'll be posting it in the notes along with this.
Tip of the iceberg. But what I want to, the message I want to leave with is this. We all have free will and free won't. And now you've heard what I've said about caffeine.
Make up your own mind.
Yes, you decide. You decide what's best for you. I've made that decision that caffeine, long-term use, chronic use is really bad for me. And it's bad for everybody, but it's all relative. It's all perspective, right? And then how do you want to deal with it, right? How do you want to recover? You want to
Absolutely.
quit. You know, you've been through this recovery process. It's not easy. Do you know what the hardest thing in the world is? Is being healthy.
It really is. It sucks.
Worse. I mean, yes. Yeah.
It sucks. You're overweight. You're too much. You're not enough. Right. You're this, you're that. Yeah. Do this, do that. Eat these foods, not those foods. Yeah. What? Just let me be.
You know, I mean, I'm in a position where I have to make our food from scratch because I will literally kill my wife.
Because the food is not working for you and your wife.
You know, processed food is toxic to her. So
absolutely. And they wonder why our body weight's going up and our lifespan's going down. It's all the chemicals in food. And I 100% agree with that. 100%. Right. It's all the chemicals in food. It's everything that they're putting in food besides food.
Right. And sometimes there's not a lot of food in there, is there?
Really, it's true.
It's a lot of it's just fake, but you know, again, that would be for another 10-hour discussion.
Yeah. I could go on and on about that subject forever, you know, but it's just crazy. And I appreciate you coming up here and bringing awareness to coffee addiction. Your book is called what?
It is called Release the Coffee Cuffs. That's
Release the Coffee Cuffs.
Winning the Battle with Caffeine. It's on Amazon, every major platform in the world.
Everybody go check that out. If you want more information about coffee addiction, Release the Coffee Cups by Steve Frazier. Check out his book if you're interested or if you just want to know. And hey, let's I thank you for being up here, and I thank you for bringing awareness to a different type of addiction that not many people are going to recognize and say, nope, not for me, you know. So thank you for coming up here and bringing awareness to it.
My pleasure.
And I look forward to conversations in the future. And that's our show today. So keep rocking your recovery, and we'll see you later.